For many songwriters, guitar is the instrument of choice and the perfect tool for crafting songs. So in this video, I want to show you 10 of the most beautiful chords you can play on guitar. And more importantly, I'm going to show you a bunch of different methods for moving these chords around the fretboard to find some magical sounds that you can inject into your next song. Now, as I show you these chords, I'm going to be referring to the form they're in. And when I say form, I'm talking about the caged system, C-A-G-E-D. And a lot of people use this system when they're learning to play guitar. There's a lot of videos on the caged system, and if you're interested, go and check those out. But as a quick overview, let's just have a look at a C major chord moving through this caged system. So we have a C major in C form. We have a C major in A form. We have a C major in G form. We have a C major in E form. And finally, we have a C major in D form. So that's how I'll be talking about these chords as I show them to you. But if you've never used the caged system, don't worry. I'm going to show you diagrams for each of the chords as I play them, and there'll be a free PDF with all of these forms in the show notes. So let's look at the first chord. And this is a beautiful chord. This is a major 13 played in G form. And let's do it as a C chord. So this is a C major 13 in G form. Beautiful chord. And where this chord is really lovely, or where I find the most use for it, is when you're finishing off a song. And so if you're playing something, say, down here in open position, and you're coming to the end of the piece, so I'll just lay out the notes of this chord for you. We have a 1, we have the 7, we have the 9, the 3, and the 13 on top. And there's a beautiful variation for this chord, which is created if we actually lift this 9 off. And then you get this kind of lovely, 1 major 7, and then another 1, and then the 3 and the 13. So you get the major 7 and the 1 resonating really closely to each other. Beautiful sound. Okay, the next chord I want to show you is a similar shape in the hand, but we're playing this one off the 5th string. And so this is a major 7 or major 9 in C form. And this one has some lovely variations on it as well. So let's take the C form. And imagine we're playing this as a major 7 by lifting that first finger off. Now, when you lift that first finger off, you can actually pretend that you're moving your first finger behind the nut. And this becomes the kind of form that we're moving up the neck. So if I take this and I move it up, say, towards the 7th fret, and land on an E, this becomes the shape for our C form major 7. Again, a beautiful sound. Now, this little finger underneath is perfectly placed to make the major 9. And technically, it's an add 9 because the order of these notes is the 1, the 3, the 5, the 9, and then the 3 on top. And that's where I think it's really beautiful as a songwriting chord, because it's got this little inbuilt melody to it when you start doing these little hammer-ons and pull-offs. So the other beautiful thing you can do with this form is use the open strings. And we really should be looking for opportunities to use open strings on guitar wherever possible. We can't compete with piano for, the amount of variation they can get in their voicings. They've got 10 fingers to use and they can spread it across multiple octaves. we really are limited in the chord voicings we can get. And so using those open strings can be a huge advantage to getting a sound that is almost impossible to achieve with any other instrument. So if we play this chord off the F note and we leave the top two strings open, the B and the E, we get an F major 7 sharp 11, which sounds like this. Beautiful chord. Now we can slide that down 3 semitones to the D and turn it into a D6-9. And that sequence again is a beautiful combination that you could employ for the start of a song. So the next chord I want to talk about is the major 7 sharp 11. And we just heard it there as an F with the open strings. That's one way to play it. The shape I want to show you, the form I want to show you is the A form. And this is a really beautiful voicing. It goes like this. So what we have here is we have the 1, the major 7, the 3, and then the sharp 4 on top. And where I find this so useful is if I'm trying to create like a Lydian kind of sound, or if I want to start a song on the 4th chord and then descend down to the 1. So in this case, if we were starting on this F major 7 sharp 11, we could descend down to the C chord 1, our home, our tonal center, and create this lovely kind of falling motion. So that falling motion again is an F major 7 sharp 11 to an E minor 7 to a D minor 7 to a C major 7. The other way you can use this chord is to just go back and forth between the F major 7 sharp 11 and the chord a semitone below the E minor 7. And because of the way this voicing works and the position you get your hand in, you can actually use this first finger on top to slide up and go to the 5th note, back and forth between the sharp 4 and the 5th, like that, with a little turn of the wrist. And so you can get these lovely little melodic patterns on top of the chord. So the next chord I want to show you is the minor 9, played in C form. And this has a few variations that are beautifully versatile and great fun to use. So this is the minor 9 in C form, and we'll play it this time off a C sharp. So this is a C sharp minor 9. And what we have here is the 1, the flat 3, the flat 7, and the 9. And then we can put the 5 on top as well and get that sound. Beautiful sound. Now, the chord I actually want to show you is when we utilize the open strings again and we start finding variations between the sus kind of sound or the 11 kind of sound and the 9 sound. So if we play the chord this way and leave the E note on top ringing, we actually have the 1, the flat 7, the 9, and then the flat 3rd on top. So it's the same as going, but we get this, which is beautiful. Now, we've got this first finger here that can be used to play the 11. And that's where it becomes magical. You can also create this shape here where the pinky slides up to actually play the E note and the first finger still goes onto the 11. So here we get no 9, just the 11. Great sound. So those are the variations. If we play this upper semitone in D, now the E is actually ringing on top as the 9. Next chord I want to show you is one of my absolute favorites, and this is an 11 chord that then shifts to a dominant 7 flat 9 chord. And it's used beautifully as the 5 chord, pulling us back to the 1 of a progression. So if we play it as a B11, for example, you have this voicing here where we have the 1, the flat 7, the 9, and the 11. Now, that chord in itself resolves beautifully to this E major. But the real magic of that form, and it is a G form chord, the real magic of this chord is that we can do this thing with our top 2 fingers here, the first and the second fingers, which is to shift both of those down a semitone whilst keeping these 2 anchored. And that chord sounds like this. Beautiful move, and used a lot in jazz. So you can hear it has this lovely final kind of sound to it. It's got a lovely resolution to it. Okay, so while we're on dominant chords, the next chord I want to show you is a dominant 7 sharp 9 falling to a flat 9. And this is a fantastic sound when you're resolving back to a 1 in a minor key. So let's say we're in the key of G minor. The 5 chord of G minor would be D7. So there's our D7, and if we play it in this form, which is a very common form to play this kind of dominant chord in, we have our little finger available right there to play this sharp 9. D7 flat 9, resolving to the G minor. Now why this chord maneuver is so cool is because that sharp 9, flat 9, resolving to the 1 minor creates this little melodic line on top. And so it has this fantastic resolution. Now the other place you can play that is up here, resolving to, and that's a great variation. The next chord I want to show you is actually just a major triad arranged in a split voicing played off the 3rd of the chord. And it is such a beautiful sound, and it allows you to connect chords so beautifully that I find myself using it all the time in different songs. So let's say we're in the key of C and we're starting on an A minor, the relative minor, to a C chord, to an F chord, quickly to a G, and then back to C. And we've heard that sound many, many times. So the 6 minor, going to the 1, the 4, the 5, back to the 1. Now where this chord becomes really useful is in turning that chord progression, which is very standard, very predictable in some ways, into something that feels livelier and has all this energy to it. And the way we would do that is by starting off with the A minor, and then I'm going to play the G off its 3rd, which is a G over B. So that chord there, now the way we're doing it is we're actually splitting our fingers. It's just a 3-note voicing, so it's really clean. And the order of the notes is always the 3rd, the 1, and the 5th. 3, 1, 5. So that connects the A minor to the C. We've heard that before. But now we're at the C, we can do the same move off the C chord. And so there's the C major chord in A form. And if we come up to the E note, which is the third of the chord, and place this shape, it connects us beautifully to the next chord, the F. We can then go and play it here as well, because that chord shape and that chord shape there are essentially the same chord but played in different positions, which takes us back to the C. Now, if you want to be cheeky, you can also throw in this one, which is the E major, which pulls us back to the A minor. So, very powerful, and it's a great sound. Okay, so the next chord I want to show you is kind of a classic, but it is so valuable, and that is 2 for 1, really. The E major 9, or the E add 9 in this open position, which again on guitar is such a beautiful sound, so rich. And where I find this really useful is if you've been playing a chord progression with closed voicing, so up here, and then you have a lovely opportunity to finish the song with, or go into perhaps another section with this very open voicing, lots of open strings, lots of depth, lots of richness. And so we might have this kind of sound. We might have, for example, now the minor version of this chord is arguably more versatile, and again, it is such a beautiful sound. This can be used as a real mood setter. It's very cinematic. I use it in a lot of film score kind of music, and that kind of backward rake with the nail, fantastic sound. But the other way you can use this is again as a movable form, playing that E bass note consistently and moving this shape up the neck. I'll give you an example. If we move this up to the 7th fret where we have our E minor, and we've got a little G note there. So when you engage that kind of low finger picking on those bottom strings, it can have this real moody kind of sound to it. But we can also start adding in additional bass notes, again with that same form. Okay, this last chord is another dominant chord, and it's perfect for any blues players out there who are looking to, add a little variety to their playing. This particular chord sequence I'm going to show you is 4 chords packaged into one, and it creates this little chromatic movement towards the final chord. If we're playing a C chord, a C7, instead of playing the root down here, we actually find the root up here on the top string. And that chord by itself is beautiful. But the magic of this particular chord is that it can do this. So that is a flat 7, 9, 3, and then root on top. We shift the 3 up to the 4 to give us that 11 kind of sound. We then turn this into a C diminished chord, and we finally resolve with your classic 4-note voicing of a dominant 7 up top. 3, 4. So those are some of the most beautiful chords I've been able to find on guitar. I hope you enjoy them. I hope you find ways to use them, and I hope you experiment with them in whatever you're writing next. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and happy songwriting. See you soon. Bye.